Hey guys, Jason Lyle Black here, back with another special feature episode for you on how to improvise. I'm going over a lot more in depth what some of the techniques are. So you remember back when I did the first part of this, I had a song that went like this. In that first episode, which you can find the link in the sidebar here to it, I went over the basics of the left and the right hand, kind of the basic beat, setting the tone for the tune, and just some variations that you could do on these ideas here. So what I wanted to go over today was the melody, kind of creating the basic melody and then working into the chorus as well. So songs tend to have a pretty set structure. You're probably familiar already with the way you get the verse and the chorus structure in songs if you're watching this video. But I'll give you a little example. So you want to think in terms of 4 bars when you're writing pop songs, when you're improvising. So we have kind of this 2, 3, 4. You have kind of that little feel. And so with your melodies, you want to do the same thing. You want to stick to 4 bars. Now, it doesn't always have to be these short 4. You can actually extend it out, kind of carry it. You could call that 8 or even 16, whatever. You can carry your melody across if you want. But it's good to kind of have the melody be at a starting point and kind of grow it a little bit and then pull it back in the end. So I'll try to illustrate that very simply. See the keys here pretty well. I'm just doing a very simple melody. That's just a B, C, B, G, 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 F sharp. Now if you listen to the way that melody goes, it kind of starts and then it grows a little bit and then pulls back. That might sound like a bunch of baloney to you if you're not real familiar with what I'm talking about in terms of growing melodies. Sounds like your art teacher in 6th grade that was just full of it. But let me explain a little bit about this. So this B here is actually on the root chord. We're starting in the G chord, if you remember that from the last episode. Now you're starting on the G chord here. And then when you bring up to the 6 chord, the E chord on the bottom, that naturally kind of brings the melody up to a climax, and then it's going to pull it back on the 5 chord. So the chords actually help you create that kind of stretch with the melody, as well as whenever you create some dissonance in the right hand in the melody, that's going to also help you set up for a good resolution. So an example of dissonance would be the dissonance was right here where you heard. So there's kind of a clash there, whereas this sounds. So this, sorry, it's hard to point out to you, but this is the part right here. Whenever you're playing 2 notes that are right next to each other, kind of, if you try putting them together and they don't sound good, then that's called dissonance. But when you put them apart, it can actually be useful in kind of setting the mood for the song. So. Resolve towards the end, you want to pick notes that are actually in the chord so that you have a little bit more harmony as you're pulling back off the melody, and that'll get you a really good sound. So with that in mind, one key thing I should just tell you to learn is definitely want to learn your scales when you're trying to do improv. So you want to know the G major scale. That's going to give you the basis on what you can use for improvising. So again, I'll just kind of go back over that same melody. As you can see, this time when I played it, I spiced it up quite a bit, added a lot in the right hand. I'll talk about that in a future episode. It's a little bit more of an advanced improv technique and takes a little more practice, but definitely start by figuring out how to come up with some melodies. Now, getting into the chorus is pretty similar, except you can get away with the chorus on maybe having a little bit more of a chord basis in your right hand than actually melody. So let me just kind of demonstrate that. We've got the melody. We want to keep a very, how do you say it? We don't want a lot of chords like for the melody, but for the chorus you can do that. Back to the melody, and let's do that chorus again. So what I'm talking about here again is using chords. What we see is you've got this, so I'm using 3 notes. Generally a chord is made up of 3 notes. It could be any number of notes, but the most common chord is just a 3-note chord. Again, I encourage you to find some podcasts explaining chords if you're not super familiar with those. So here's so you can make a great chorus again by using some chords, and it all comes down, you kind of just follow the bass. So wherever the bass is going is generally where you want your chord to go in the right hand. So we're on the E bass, so we're going to have an E minor chord, and then a C chord, and then we go into the D, and then you just repeat it again. If you listen to some of your favorite bands, you'll probably find they repeat some of their chorus licks, you could call them, or patterns, probably 3 or 4 times in the chorus. And it sounds good. Again, in pop music, and it's a great sound. So, and then let's talk a little bit about dissonance again. So I introduced some dissonance here on the 3rd chord. So watch, you gotta. That's actually called the D sus chord. I'm not going to talk about that for now, but the point is, again, there is dissonance, which I talked about. So let's look at that. Okay, so the dissonance here, I'm playing an A, a D, and a G in the right hand, and a D bass. Now the D chord is actually a D, F sharp, and A. So if you put all these notes together, which I showed you is how you figure out if there's dissonance, this is what you get. So that's essentially the chord I'm playing. Now granted, I have taken out one of the notes, but the ear still is going to recognize that this is the underlying chord. It doesn't sound very good when you play all the notes together, but you spread them out and you create that dissonance. And then it can resolve and get some dissonance again to have a climax, and you come back down. So again, that's talking about that whole thing of taking the melody and building it up and then pulling it back. It's the same thing with the chorus. Just want to point one other thing out. At the very end, I do this with the right hand. I have the G on the top, and then I pull back to the F sharp. Again, that's resolving the dissonance. The F sharp is the natural note supposed to be in that chord. So I come off the G onto the F sharp. It gets a little resolution for the end of the line. We pull back, and then you go and do it again. Some great variety. So again, a future podcast special, I'm going to talk more about how to do some of these, some of the more complicated accompaniments that you can do with your fingers as you're playing the melody. Some of the things maybe in the left hand as well that you can do. Just try to give you an idea on where you can take your song and take it to the next level. Also, I'll be talking more about the musicality of the piece and how to really be expressive with it, which is one of the things you'll notice that really sets apart a decent piano player from one that's really amazing and really enjoyable to listen to is being able to be expressive musically, and it definitely takes a lot of discipline. So I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Be sure and subscribe and share this video with your friends. Take care.